Welcome. My name is Christina Goodwin, and as a planned giving professional, I have assessed many nonprofit organizations regarding their planned giving readiness. And I just want to start off today by saying how lovely it's been to get to know the mission, the very important work that you all do at Dismas of Vermont, and recognize your organizational maturity that you've really developed over the last 3 decades. So first, why planned giving? The first, diversified revenue. Without a more sophisticated planned giving program, Dismas of Vermont is literally leaving money on the table. While the revenue streams of planned giving cannot be counted on in the same way that an appeal or a major gift campaign can, planned giving has the potential to make a significant impact on your revenue. The second, if you aren't aware already, there is a significant wealth transfer underway. This is predicted to last until the year 2052, and it's a transfer of wealth from the boomers and the silent generation to their heirs, largely millennials. This will make millennials the richest generation in American history, per Forbes magazine. Competition. So this is a piece that nonprofits don't often think about. The fact is that nonprofits do indeed compete for clients, donations, and volunteers. An organization that does not offer planned giving means that those dollars will go elsewhere. We want to prevent that. And lastly, planned giving is a commitment to the future. It tells your donors that you're planning for and thus committed to a vibrant, sustainable, financially secure future. The receipt of planned gifts provides an opportunity also for Dismas to manage and invest funds strategically for the long term. So, are you ready? I say yes. And here's why. First, you have a strategic plan. It's a fresh plan, and it's good through fiscal year 27. So you have a vision forward. Second, you have financial stability. This is clear from a review of your 990s and your audited financials. Third, that financial stability has allowed you to be on a growth trajectory. You started with one house, you now have 5. The financial stability and the growth trajectory together really emphasizes the strong history you've had going back to 1986. You have a stable annual fund with over 8,000 donors, which is amazing. You have a great planned giving prospect pool. You also have a robust volunteer program, and we'll talk about why that's important later in the slide. Of nearly 700 volunteers at any one given time, which is amazing. And then capacity. So you have your board and you have your staff, and I think there's room in both of those existing roles that can be sort of dedicated to planned giving. And you've also just hired a new development director who is the perfect person in many ways to lift up much of the plan I'm going to recommend to you today. I was really pleased to visit your website and find that you're already talking about the planned giving vehicles of securities, bequests, and irrevocable trusts. And these and other types of planned giving vehicles are important because 90% of wealth is typically in non-cash assets that cannot be easily liquidated and thus must be planned for. Offering donors choices is important so that they can match their various motivations, both charitable and financial, with the planned giving vehicles that will have also a meaningful impact for Dismas. And so to that end, I would encourage that you add first charitable remainder trusts. So this is something you will have to do in partnership with the Vermont Community Foundation. They will require you to open a fund with the foundation in order to access their services around remainder trusts. But I think that's extremely worthy endeavor because they also manage and facilitate hundreds of donor advised funds. And so you're really getting a lot of exposure through that relationship. Now, a charitable remainder trust allows a donor to not only make a charitable gift, but also earn income over the life of the trust. And those trusts don't exceed 20 years. The second vehicle is around insurance policies and retirement accounts. And so by naming Dismas as a beneficiary to such accounts, the donor's estate gets a charitable deduction and the nonprofit benefits. Naming Dismas as a beneficiary is a very simple process for the donor, and the gift is realized upon the donor's death. The third suggestion is to offer qualified charitable distributions. Now, these otherwise taxable distributions from an IRA, when they are owned by an individual who is 70 and a half or older, are instead paid directly from the retirement account to a qualified charity, such as Dismas, which helps the donor navigate the tax implications of mandatory withdrawals from their retirement assets. So I'm going to recommend a 3-phase approach to an expanded planned giving program. The first step is structure development and new policy. So think gift acceptance policies, donor segmentation, and readying your CRM. In the second phase, research and readiness, so wealth prospecting, volunteer surveys, and further segmentation of donors. And then phase 3, which is really around longer term strategy regarding new programs and organizational investments that enhance mission delivery and therefore improve the argument for legacy giving. Okay, so phase 1, everything is right here laid out, step 1 through 6. The first step is that gift acceptance policy. So you need to agree to new planned giving vehicles. And I have included a sample outline of what should be in that gift acceptance policy in the appendix of the written report you have in front of you. Second step is how are you going to track planned gift activity? So you'll need to update your CRM with custom fields and also be able to track gifts. Third step to phase 1 is copywriting. This is going to be really important because really this is how you are going to communicate to your existing donors about the opportunity for planned giving with Dismas. So your website needs to be updated. The web should include specific instructions regarding how someone can leave a bequest or make a gift of stock, take out the extra step of needing to contact someone. And then as far as your print collateral, you'll want a postscript on your direct mail collateral, and then also your monthly electronic newsletters. You want donors to be able to self-select into planned giving. Fourth, this is really critical. You need to think about volunteers as prospects, as prospective donors. They must be logged into your CRM and they must be cultivated for the annual fund because research shows that volunteers make excellent planned giving prospects, not to be overlooked. The fifth step is a stewardship matrix, which is really just a fancy way of saying what benefits Dismas is going to afford various subsets of donors. So what does a donor who makes a $25 donation get? What does a donor get as far as a relationship with the organization for a $10,000 gift? And planned gift donors, what does that relationship with the organization look like? So there's an example again in the appendix, but this is really what's going to help you not only move donors up through your pyramid, but also encourage their year-over-year giving, which we know is a predicator for planned giving. And finally, your role, really important. The members of the board of directors and of the House councils, you need to be the early adopters. This establishes precedents for the program before going public and allows DSMIS to troubleshoot some of your new systems. Okay, phase 2, all the steps laid out for you again. Step 1, donor segmentation. You want to look at your donor pool, your existing donor pool, and better understand their planned giving potential. For example, we know that starting at age 40, people are increasingly likely to have a will. However, you may not know how old your donors are. You may not have birth dates in your CRM, and that's where step number 2 comes in. By engaging with a wealth prospecting tool, you can have access to additional information about your existing donor pools. And so hence it being step number 2, so you can further segment, further screen. Step 3 is specifically understanding your volunteers towards that same goal of identifying planned gift prospects, right? Research and readiness. This is all part of it. Who are you going to be speaking to about planned giving? In that volunteer, to understand the volunteer demographics, I'm going to encourage that you engage an external consultant to help you with that project, and that's in the budget later on in the presentation. Fourth is to start thinking about how you're going to talk about planned giving possibilities at DSMIS. And so I think having a planned giving tagline is a really great starting strategy. And again, I'm going to recommend that you engage an external consultant to help you with that tagline, as well as provide you with an initial evaluation of the organization's brand. Like, what do people think of DSMIS? Do they know about DSMIS? And the third deliverable that consultant that I'd love to see is to have them storyboard some impact stories for you. Number 5 is an ideal, and that is to have longer term data. So we know what happens, and you have good numbers around what happens when a resident is at DSMIS. But what information do we have about once they leave DSMIS, about their success stories or rates of recidivism, rates of relapse? Those points of data will really help reinforce the case for legacy giving. And so to think about how is it possible? Like, where can you have that longer term outcome? And then step 6 is professional development for your staff. You've hired a very capable development director with decades of experience. Really lean into her so that she can provide your house staff with training opportunities around planned giving so that they have what they need to engage in meaningful conversations with donors. And lastly, final phase, longer term strategy. So step 1, this is where your house staff can play a really important role in customizing planned giving language for their portfolio of donors and their fundraising events in a way that matches the personality of the house. And related to that is, having that base of how do we talk about planned giving at a particular house. Number 2 is then how do we shine a light on it? And so I would really love to see each house dedicate one annual event a year that is dedicated to legacy giving and that theme of legacy. Step 3 is really working towards that statewide recognition, and for a number of reasons. One, it allows you to be a better and more effective partner on the Vermont landscape. Second is just general brand awareness about what it is that your organization does and why it matters. Third is having a statewide donor pool to tap into. And so I understand that the statewide initiatives are nascent, but I encourage you to continue exploring those because that's really going to lend itself well to your planned giving program. And then finally, the programmatic expansion. So your existing strategic plan has a number of sort of value-added services that Dismas would like to consider incorporating into its future, which then again just makes for a more compelling reason to support Dismas for the long haul, to keep leaning into that growth trajectory we talked about at the beginning of the presentation. As the folks with fiduciary responsibility, cost is really important. So I want to be really clear and transparent about what I think you're looking at. Good news is that in phase 1, no new costs. You should be able to account for all of the work within the existing staff structure, and this is a viable option for you because of your the recent hiring of your development director. Phase 2 is nominal investment, right? A total of $9,500, call it 10. So that breaks down to the wealth screening tool, and I do recommend iWave, and that will cost you about $4,000 annually. Engaging in a consultant at the rate at the project rate of $2,500 to craft and implement that volunteer demographic survey that we talked about. And then third, engaging with an external marketing consultant to evaluate the Dismas brand, craft a planned giving tagline, and storyboard some impact stories for you. Phase 3 is variable investment, a minimum of $3,000 to continue engagement with that marketing consultant to come up with a strategy regarding how you can make your statewide presence known more effectively. Now, you could spend up to $15,000 doing that work. So there is sort of a window of opportunity there that I think is reasonable for you. Phase 3 costs does not include any programmatic investments. And so that leaves you with the total investment in the planned giving program of $15,000 to $25,000. I believe that this rather small investment of $25,000 towards a more meaningful planned giving program at Dismas of Vermont will absolutely result in a positive return financially and socially. That said, I am a realist and I do appreciate data. And so due to the nature of the Dismas mission, it will be important to not only watch, but take into consideration trends in the subsectors of social services and public society, and to just track those investments over time. And over time is important, and the idea of time, because planned giving programs are an investment in the longer term. Success is not immediate and in many ways is predetermined by annual fund donor engagement. So keep an eye on your data and know that planned giving is scalable and you can build it over time, but you have to have it in place in order to be successful. Thanks so much for your time today. I'm happy to entertain any questions.